best car, SUV, or truck, guess what? You're in luck. Frontier Motors is down the street. Got the best deals that can't be beat. Don't overpay, come in today. Doing business the old-fashioned way. Frontier, we got the right price. Frontier, we'll treat you mighty nice. Frontier Motors, low overhead country.
Hello and welcome to the Frontier Motor Show. My name is Iven Streckel, owner of Frontier Motors, and you're seeing this live downtown Pensacola at the Cowork Annex on Palafox Street. This is a car show. If you haven't seen the Frontier Motor Show before, the next 30 minutes we're going to be talking about cars. If you have any questions on how to buy a car, which car to buy, good deal, bad deal, you can also go to Frontier Motors Facebook page and you can live chat with us. So for the rest of you that are watching, this is a show about the car business, not just what we do at Frontier Motors to set us apart from the other 100 and so dealers that are in the Pensacola area. It's a little bit about what's going on in the car industry. And one of the things that we talk about is the latest news. And one of the latest news things we have is that manufacturers, especially domestic manufacturers, are dropping their cars for SUVs. And I'm kind of shocked the cars that are being discarded. And I'll give an example, because why would you discontinue a car that last year sold 209,000 units? Now, example is the Ford Fusion. The Ford Fusion has been one of our best-selling used cars on our car lot, one of the best-selling new cars on there, but Ford has decided they're going to drop all of their cars except for the Mustang. So that means the Ford Fusion is out. The Ford Focus, except for the electric Focus, the Ford Focus is out, 158,000 sales last year. They're dropping the Focus. They're dropping the Ford C-Max. That's an electric hybrid. They sold 18,000 of those. They're dropping the Ford Taurus, which is their full-size car. No more full-size cars. So the only car that Ford has left is a Mustang. Now, same with General Motors. General Motors is dropping the Buick LaCrosse, one of the finest luxury cars on the road right now, other than maybe the Cadillac CT6, which is also being discontinued, and the Cadillac ATS, which has been being continued, and the Cadillac SUV, the XTS car, which is their full-size car, excellent car. We saw a lot of the XTSs being discontinued. The Chevy Cruze, 184,000 Chevy Cruzes were sold. They're canceling the Cruze, can't figure it out. They're canceling the Chevy Impala. My first car I ever sold in 1975 was a Chevy Impala. I'm going to start crying any minute. They're going to discontinue the Impala. How dare they? And the last one is the Chevy Volt, which is one of my favorite cars because it is an electric car, that's a hybrid, 50 miles on electric. So if you're doing just city driving in town, you will never have to put gas in it. And then it flips over to gas. You can go almost 400 miles on gas. And that was a great car that has been discontinued. Now, two reasons they're doing this. The one reason is people want SUVs and crossovers. You can see the shift already. Cars sales are way down, crossovers and SUVs are up. The other reason is they make a lot more money on an SUV than a car. The average compact SUV costs $8,000 more than the average car. It'd be interesting to see how that's going to work if the people are going to absorb that $8,000. Do they really want an SUV that bad and spend $8,000 more? That's a lot of extra money just to sit up a couple more inches and have a little bit better utility as far as the storage space in the back. Can't figure it out. Especially a car like the Ford Focus, which was a great car. You can get a Ford Focus hatchback that has all kinds of room, almost like a small SUV, at $8,000 less. But anyways, that's the reason they're doing it. I'm not saying it's because of greed, because they're making more money, but it is a business, and they're in business to make money, so they're going to go where the money is, and these cars are being discontinued. So while they're still out there, while they're still on the lots, now's your time to pick up one of those cars before you'll never see them again. And by the way, people sometimes ask me, what happens to the resale value of a car that's discontinued? And I'm going to tell you nothing. The resale value doesn't change. Matter of fact, when Oldsmobile years ago said they were stopping making Oldsmobiles, the values went up because people liked the Oldsmobile. The solid Oldsmobile buyer that was buying Oldsmobile year after year, they grabbed up and snapped up the last ones, and then the ones that were used actually went up in value. So just because they're discontinued doesn't really have anything to do with the value of the car, unless it's a vehicle they hardly sell any of which is Well, let me see, on that list, there was not a lot of them on there they don't sell a lot of. Now, they also came out, want to talk about news in the car business. The Dealers Association did surveys of 13.8 million cars, and they came out and they wanted to find out which cars or vehicles are most likely to hit 200,000 miles. And it's really interesting. The group that is on that list is not the group with the most reliability standards, like the Consumer Reports. And I'll give you an example. One of the groups on the list is the Navigator, which, by the way, I drive a Lincoln Navigator, one of the new body style Navigators. I like them because I throw my bicycle in the back. I don't like to mess around with bike racks, so it's big enough to put the bike in the back. And those new Navigators are phenomenal. But they didn't, the old ones, the ones that were 15 years old, didn't have the best reliability. They made the list of most likely to hit 200,000 miles. The number one vehicle was the Toyota Sequoia, which, by the way, they still sell. We've got a couple of them in stock. The Sequoia was one of them, that number one to make 200,000 miles. After that, it was a Chevy Suburban. Can you believe that? That big old Suburban. People just drive them. Then the Expedition, the Yukon XL, which, if you don't know what that is, that's a GMC Suburban. I liked it better when it was called the GMC Suburban and Chevy Suburban. Now they call it a Yukon XL. The Toyota 4Runner has always been a great vehicle. That's one of the few imports to make the list. The Tahoe, the Highlander, Honda Ridgeline pickup truck make 200,000 miles. The Yukon, the regular Yukon, both the Tacoma trucks, the Tacoma and the Tundra. Oh, and Avalon made a list also, and the Honda Odyssey and the Navigator. Now, the ones that hit 300,000 miles were the Ford Expedition, the 4Runner, Sequoia, Chevy Suburban, Tacoma, and Tundra were twice as likely to hit 300,000 miles than the average. Now, I mentioned in the last show that we did that they just came out with a new survey that the average age of a vehicle on the road in the United States is 11.8 years. So let's just make it 12 years. The average age of a vehicle is 12 years, and most of those people are driving one of those vehicles, because most vehicles, when I got in the car business, the average age of a vehicle was 7 years. So obviously people are keeping the vehicles longer, and the vehicles are much better with less maintenance, a lot less maintenance than they used to have in the old. Remember tune-ups? Who does a tune-up on a car anymore? I can see somebody might change plugs when they hit 100,000 miles. But I remember you had to get a car tuned up every 15 to 20,000 miles. You know, they had the condenser and the distributor and all that garbage. Well, you don't have that anymore. Oil changes you used to have to do every 1,000 miles. And now with synthetic, you go every 10,000 miles. You know, so the rust corrosion preventative that they put on the vehicles is much better than it was years ago. It was not unusual when I lived in Wisconsin back in the old days that a vehicle would start rusting in 2 to 3 years. Well, not anymore. Now, matter of fact, the manufacturers guarantee that if you have any rust on your car, by 10 years, they'll take care of it at no charge. So very interesting of the vehicles most likely to hit 200,000 miles, because I did not think that a Suburban or an Expedition would be on that list. I would think it'd be like a car like a Toyota Camry, which didn't make the list, or the Honda Civic or the Honda Accord, which have in the past have always had a better than average reliability. And that fluctuates from year to year. Let's talk a little bit about depreciation and why I'm so excited to be in the used car business versus new. When we moved to Pensacola 23 years ago, we started Frontier Motors in 1996. Moved here a little earlier than that. And we were thinking about, well, should we get a dealership, a car dealership, new car dealership, or used? And it wasn't a lot of thought that we had to put into it to not have to get a franchise and be at the beck and call of the manufacturer telling you what to do. And they do tell you what to do. From what the brochures that you have to pay to order, to the signs that you have to put up, to the color of the dealership, to the color of the toolboxes in the service department, is all dictated by the manufacturer. We wanted to call our own shots, and we also wanted to keep our overhead low. So Frontier Motors started by buying an old car dealer. It was a buy-your-pay-your lot, and we paid a little over $100,000 for it 23 years ago. And we would love to have been in Car City, where all the car dealerships are, but the amount of money you'd had to pay to be in Car City would make our overhead go up so high that we wouldn't be able to advertise our cars and say that we've got the best deals in town when you have the highest overhead in town. So we don't have a showroom. We don't have a fancy showroom. Now, throughout the years, we started with 35 cars. We have bought up small lots in our little block, and we're up to having, I think, 8 lots right now where we're able to store, instead of 35 cars when we started, we have 400 cars in inventory. And when we sold 20 cars in our first month, Now we're selling between 200 and 250 total cars every single month. And that's grown like that because of the way that we do business, the way we treat our customers, the way we take care of people after the sale, and the way that we do our advertisement by telling people right off the bat that we're going to make money when we sell you a car. But we're not going to rip you off. And that's what most people want. They know you have to stay. They want you to be in business to take care of it. They want to have a car dealer they can go back to every time they need a car. And it might be a 5 or 10-year gap, or like the national average of 11.8 years. But they want that dealer to still be in business, which means we have to make a profit. But we don't have to take advantage of anybody when we do it. One way we can do that and still stay in business by keeping our overhead as low as possible, by not buying a $20 million building. And that's one of the things that is very interesting, how it's dictated by the manufacturer. Do you remember back when Mini came out and Mini came to the United States? This was years ago. And of course, they're built by BMW, and they had the Minis in the BMW showrooms. Well, that only lasted a very short time before the manufacturer, BMW, said, no, we have to split that up. We want every one of you dealers that want the Mini franchise to build a multi-million-dollar building. Well, guess what they announced? I don't know. That had to be 20 years ago. I don't remember exactly when. They just announced that they're doing a reversal on that. There's so many Mini dealers that aren't making any money. They're now talking about, and this is already happening with Sonic in California, that Sonic is letting them let their buildings go, their Mini buildings go, and moving Minis back into BMW. And I always found that odd that the manufacturer would make you increase your overhead by double. You know, when you put another building next door, and we have that here in Pensacola, they have 2 separate buildings. You have to hire, normally different management. You have to hire a greeter. You have to have a receptionist. You have to have separate salespeople. The overhead, I don't want to say it's doubled, but it's almost doubled. Well, now they're thinking, well, maybe it may be a little bit wiser if we merge those together. I see that going on right now also with Genesis. I noticed that Hyundai, who is Genesis, if you don't know this, by the way, Genesis is the Highline division of Hyundai. A couple of years ago, they decided that they're going to have their own Highline division, and good for them because the Genesis is a phenomenal car. Matter of fact, Consumer Reports, this is a different subject, and I'm jumping around a little bit, rates the Genesis as the #1 brand to buy, #1. And they've only been building Genesis for, I think, 3 to 4 years right now, standalone. Well, now they've dictated that every Hyundai, if you have Genesis, have to build their own showroom. They have to have their own facility. So I guess they're not learning. I don't know why they do that, but there goes the overhead again. And again, that leads me back to why did we decide to go used and why do we get low overhead? So we can stock cars, not worry about a massive building. We have a beautiful facility. It's like brand new. We have very clean, but we put the emphasis on what we buy. When we go and buy our vehicles, if they're not, the normal rating on a car is 1 to 10. And I always say if they're not a 9, we don't even mess around with the cars. I don't like buying cars that are average and making them above average. I want to buy cars already that are above average and sell them in that condition. And the condition, to me, is the most important thing when we purchase a car. And when you come on the lot at Frontier Motors, you're going to find 400 vehicles there. And when you open the door, you're going to find they don't smell, they're clean, they don't have check engine lights on, the tires aren't worn off, the hubcaps aren't missing. These cars are absolutely gorgeous cars. We get more and more compliments on our inventory, I would say, than on anything else. And when I notice when I'm looking at my Facebook thing right here, that also they have the ratings on Facebook, and we are a 4.9 out of 5-star rating on Facebook, which is very difficult to get when you use car dealer. Now, why do I say that? Because used cars break. And what happens when you buy a used car? Normally they're sold as is, isn't that correct? You buy a 5-year-old used car, and you're buying it from a dealer, and 5 days later the air conditioning stops working. What happens? You got to pay for it yourself. Well, at Frontier Motors, we're here to say that we're going to help you out when you buy a car if your air conditioning goes out 5 days later. Things like that we're going to take care of. We put a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty on every car that's less than 10 years old with less than 100,000 miles on the engine transmission. Example, if you buy a 3-year-old car from us, you will get 7 more years of warranty on the engine, transmission, and transaxle up to 100,000 miles at no charge. So that if your motor blows up in 5 years from now, guess what? You're covered. Now, that doesn't say anything about the air conditioning, but to get a high rating, you've got to take care of your customers. And you know how you take care of your customers? It costs money to do that. Because normally a customer only has a complaint when something breaks and they feel that it was probably there when they bought the car. And most people know that when they buy a used car, they're sold as is. And especially you buy one on Craigslist. What happens when you buy a car on Craigslist? You buy a car on Craigslist, 5 days later, the air conditioning goes out. I had a customer the other day that came back from Bobby Likas, who has a great reputation. Bobby's a friend of mine. They took their Lexus over to Bobby Likas to replace the air conditioning system on their RX 350 was $3,600. $3,600. Now, if you bought that car on Craigslist, what would happen? You'd be out $3,600. What if you bought it from Frontier Motors? Well, we definitely wouldn't tell you, hey, you bought it used. So what we would do is we would, number one, call Bobby Likas to see if he can give us a break on the price. Number two, see if we can help you with the repairs. Maybe we'll split it, maybe we'll do something, but we're going to help you. It's not as is. And if we feel it's a pre-existing condition, we would just take care of it. And most dealers don't do that. They say they're going to help you, but then they don't. Dave Ramsey says one thing that I've been talking about for years and years. And matter of fact, let's show you what Dave Ramsey says. He does a great endorsement for Frontier Motors. And it's really interesting that Dave Ramsey called Frontier Motors and picked us in Pensacola for his endorsement. We didn't call him, he picked us.
Hey, Dave Ramsey here. For almost a decade, I've been telling you about my friends at Frontier Motors in Pensacola. The biggest reason is they help my listeners save thousands of dollars when purchasing a slightly used car over a brand new one. Consumer Reports says the average new car depreciates a whopping $9,200 in the first year alone. That's crazy. So if you're thinking new, don't. Go see Frontier Motors and see how much they can save you on a current year car with very low miles. And if your goal is to get out of debt, bring Frontier Motors your car and they can write you a check on the spot. Frontier Motors can also do consignments and they don't charge a fee or a commission. Frontier Motors have been helping the people in the Pensacola area for 21 years. They are the go-to dealer for free advice when it comes to buying or selling a car. Please go see my friends at Frontier Motors. And don't forget to tell them Dave Ramsey sent you.
Now, Dave, just to know for your TV listeners out there, this is actually the Consumer's Reports that I'm talking about. It's in April's edition on page 21, where they say the average price of a car was approximately $35,000, and the average depreciation the first year was 27%, which if you multiply that out, equates to $9,200. If you keep a car for 4 years, folks, your average depreciation is 56%, $19,000. That's crazy, isn't it? I'm trying to figure out, why does anybody buy a new car? Now, of course, people have to buy a new car for us to stay in business. Because if somebody doesn't buy the new car, which, by the way, 17 million people last year bought new cars, 40 million people bought used cars. Those 40 million, I think, were smarter than 17 million. But we want somebody to buy the new car. We just don't want it to be you. Because I want to buy that car when the customer changes their mind after 1 year, after 6 months. And sometimes it's not a customer that's trading a ar after 6 months. Sometimes it's a rental company that bought 10,000 cars and they don't need them all. Sometimes it's a manufacturer that over manufactured cars and they're taking some new cars to auction. I saw this the other day with Mitsubishi Highlanders. I saw brand new 2019 Mitsubishi Highlanders at the auction being sold to dealers like ourselves, Frontier Motors, an independent used car dealership that had 5 miles on them. We bought 2 or 3 of those cars at used car prices, folks. Now, when they depreciate $9,000, I just want to put an asterisk to that. Don't come and say that I'm saving you $9,000 because I've got to make money on the car. Number one, if I buy at the auction, I've got to ship it. I've got to pay the buyer. I've got to pay the auction fee, and then I've got to make money on it. So even if that comes out to $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000, depending on the car and the shipping amount, you're still going to save on a car with very low miles on. You're still going to save $5,000 or $6,000 on the car. Now that might be a little less on a Toyota Corolla than it would be on a 2019 Mercedes E-Class, for example, because obviously the more expensive the car, if you have a $100,000 car that depreciates $27,000, I'm going to save you a lot more money on that car. Like, as an example, the Lexus that I have at the dealership, we have one of the new 2018 LC500 hybrids. That's their sports car. The window sticker is $102,000. The car's not 1 year old. We're selling it for $75,000. That's a pretty big savings. We just sold the Cadillac CT6. If you don't know what that is, that's their top of the line 4-door car. An $86,000 window sticker. It's got 10,000 miles on it for $46,000. That's a $40,000 depreciation in 10,000 miles. Now again, as the cars get more expensive, the depreciation factor is larger. But the Consumer Reports, I'm really happy they came out with this because I can show this to our customers. So it's not something we're talking about that you can save a bunch of money if you buy a car that is 6 months old to a year old. And people always worry about it. I've got some people come in and says, Ivan, I'm just here to get a free appraisal. That's the other thing we do at Frontier Motors, that if you're going to buy a new car and we can't talk you out of it, at least get your car appraised for free and have a second opinion in your back pocket when you go to that new car dealership. And when people come in, they'll say, Ivan, I want to buy a brand new 2019 Lexus RX 350 over at the Lexus dealership. And I'll tell them, well, I've got a 2018 here with 3,000 miles on it, same body style. Would you consider that? And they said, I hear this over and over again. My wife says that I can't buy a used car because no matter how much I save, she always thinks there's something wrong with it. Why would somebody get rid of a 3,000 mile car? And my comeback is always that I'm happy that someone did. I don't really care for the reason. Of course, I care about issues with a car, but we're going to guarantee that when we sell you that car, there aren't any issues. Things that people worry about of cars are things like flood damage, odometer problems. Is the odometer correct? Was it a lemon law buyback? Was it a total salvage car? These are things that we guarantee you. Those are called gray market vehicles. And if we ever at Frontier Motors sold a gray market vehicle, we would guarantee you that you would get your money back, all of it, including taxes and everything, even if you've had the car for years, if we've sold you a gray market vehicle by mistake. And I'm happy to say in the last 20 years that hasn't happened. So, and one of the reasons it hasn't happened is because there's so many safeguards against that. Most of the states, including Alabama and Mississippi, which were quite lax years ago, have gotten new title situations where if the title is branded, it stays with the title. In other words, you could take a total vehicle, take it to another state and get a new title and wouldn't have the brand on it, wouldn't say total, not anymore. And now we have history reports, which, by the way, you get free at Frontier Motors. Free Carfax and free auto check. A Carfax report's $40 plus tax. No charge at Frontier Motors. You call us up if you're buying a car from another car dealer. Some of these small car dealerships won't subscribe to Carfax because it costs too much money. Well, when you run a whole bunch of them, you get a discounted price. So I've decided to throw that discounted price up to anybody that wants one for free. Heck, we've even done it for other car dealerships for free to show goodwill. But if you're buying your neighbor's car, wouldn't it be nice to have a free Carfax report and not have to give them a credit card? Same thing with the auto check. So these are just some of the things that we offer. One of the things I also want to talk about is that another thing that we offer, other than the free appraisal service and a free buying service, by the way, if you stop in Frontier Motors, within 15 minutes, I'll give you a buy bid on your car. I'll also tell you what it's worth. I'll also tell you what I'll consign it for if I sell it for you. And I'll also tell you what it would sell for on the open market. So a bunch of different figures that I can give you ammunition so you can decide, what do I want to do with my car? Do I want to trade it in at a dealership? Do I want to sell it myself? Or do I just want to save the headache and take it to Frontier Motors and get a check for it and be done with it? Or maybe put it on consignment. I'll normally give you a little bit more money on consignment because I don't have to tie up my money. What if you get into a major accident? And everybody knows that we have a big problem in Pensacola with the red lights. It seems like the red lights aren't working properly, or people maybe need glasses, because I see more and more people running those red lights. And of course, what happens when you run a red light, you get broadsided. Well, when you get broadsided, you are going to have a vehicle that has some major damage. And if your vehicle is not totaled, guess what it has? It has a major issue with resale value after you get it fixed. It's called diminished value. And if somebody hits you, you deserve diminished value. Well, guess who gives you the amount of diminished value? Frontier Motors, in writing, on any make and model. So if somebody creams you, and it's not your fault, you come in, I'm going to tell you what that vehicle would be appraised for fixed, because it's going to go on the condition report. It's going to go on Carfax. It's going to say major damage reported, airbags were deployed, the vehicle had to be towed. Well, what does that do to the value? It drives it way down into the tank. And on some vehicles, it can be thousands and thousands of dollars. Now, if it's a 15-year-old vehicle, not that much. But if the vehicle's 2 years old with 10,000 miles on it, and it's a $50,000 car, you might have $5,000, $6,000, or $7,000 diminished value. So I'll give you that in writing so you can get more money from the insurance company. The other thing is, if the car does get totaled, don't just settle with the insurance company. Call up Frontier Motors. Let us do the comps for you and let you know what that insurance company should be paying you for that particular car, just to make sure that they're treating you fair on the replacement value. And don't forget also, they got to pay you for taxes and the tag transfer, because if you go out and replace that car, you got to pay tax, you got to pay for your tag transfer. So these are all helpful hints that we will help you with at Frontier Motors. Folks, the best cars out there, we sell every make and model. It's so fun to be a used car independent dealer because we don't have to sell you a car. You pick one out. It's called selling, but it really isn't selling. You come in, you pick out the car of your dreams. If you want a Honda, guess what? We've got Hondas. If you want a Dodge, we've got the Dodges. If you want a Toyota, we have Toyota. Lexus, we've got them all lined up. So if you're looking for a small SUV and you're thinking about a Ford Escape, maybe a Chevy Equinox, maybe a GMC Terrain, maybe the new Honda, they got a HRV. Toyota's got another one of the small SUVs. They just came out. I forget the name of it. And we have them all lined up. It's like going to an auto show. People like going to auto shows because they can look at every make and model. You come to Frontier Motors, it's like an auto show. We've got them all lined up. They're all unlocked every morning. If you're coming in on your lunch hour, we can give you a price list. We'll give you a price list. Every car is going to have a price. I had a customer complain about 10 years ago, say, you don't have prices on your cars. I said, better yet, I've got a price sheet I can give you. Every single car has the list price and the discounted price already on there. No need to quibble over hours and hours about going back and forth. We will give you a price in writing, including all the fees. And then we challenge you to go to the next dealer and have them do the same thing. And if they won't, I would walk out, because that means they're hiding something. If they're not going to give you a total out-the-door figure, walk out immediately. And then if they do give you a total out-the-door figure, compare apples to apples. Compare equipment, compare miles, compare color, and then most of all, compare the condition of the car. And even if our price isn't the same, the way that we normally win is with the best conditioned vehicle. One that doesn't smell, one that's got a clean history report, one that's not dinged up, one that's got both keys, one that's got gas in it when you take delivery. All those things matter to who's got the best deal out there. And at Frontier Motors, you can get that in a matter of minutes. Check out our Facebook. Check out YouTube, this show will be on YouTube. And also go to our website, frontiermotorsinc.com, and you will see 400 vehicles in inventory, approximately somewhere between 380 and 400 cars, with detailed photographs, and everyone has an asking price and a discounted price. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Auf Wiedersehen.
Frontier Motors is down the street. Got the best deals that can't be beat. Don't overpay, come in today. Doing business the old-fashioned way. Frontier, we got the right price. Frontier, we'll treat you mighty nice. Frontier Motors, low overhead country.